Our family.
Our family.
Our family.
Our family.
As long as I could remember, I've always wanted a family. So I've always been really keen on it. It's something I think as same sex, you can't, you want it, but it's not straightforward. It's not as easy as you think. So you've got to kind of look into it and speak to others to kind of find what you want and how it works out. But actually, I think once you get to that point, it is straightforward and the people are there to talk to, so you can do it.
I think there's like a process involved. So obviously you always want the family, and then you take the next step into deciding actually, yeah, we're going to be proactive and we're going to do something about it. And then obviously you look into the routes that are possible to yourselves, and then it's just cracking on from there and learning as much as you can about what routes you can take.
Was a friend's partner that approached us and said, you know, they'd be really interested in being a surrogate. But I think you have to, it's something that you can't take lightly. It's, if it's, you know, someone too close, it's such a great thing that they're going to do. But it can also, there's a friendship there that you need to be careful of, and you don't want to cross that line. So we kind of, someone did approach us and we kind of sort of put it on the shelf and left it. But they kept coming back and saying continuously, yeah, you know, we really want to do it. You know, I really, really want to do it for you. So then we kind of sat down properly and sort of went through everything and kind of said, this is what the process would be, and this is what we need to do. Go away with your partner, have a think about it to see if you are, you know, if it's something that you want to do, because it's a really big commitment. And again, what we don't want to do is in the process be let down halfway through with a surrogate, because obviously that can be heartbreaking as well. And then your friendship would deteriorate. So I think it, you know, she lucky enough, she kept coming back and she kept saying, no, I'm happy, my partner's happy. So I think it probably took about a year to get that where we was at, you know, we was both happy on both parts, even though the surrogate from day one she was adamant, I want to do it, you know, I really, really want to do it. But I think you stay a bit reserved back just in case. And here we are now, you know, she was fantastic.
Both of them was a partner. They was very, very supportive. It was just, yeah, amazing people.
Different profiles to match, because obviously you want baby to match your profile as yourselves as a couple as well. So if it was a, you know, straight pregnancy, you know, there's a colour match and things like that. So we went through all them options with the clinic, and we found someone that was suitable, that we was happy with. Ones that came up, and Dr Venkat I think was quite highlighted online of her experience in the field, and one of our sort of family friends, they'd actually used the clinic as well, and they had success. Well, they actually ended up with twins, so it was successful for them. So I think it was the fact that we knew someone that had used the clinic, and then sort of when we started researching, Dr Venkat came up quite a lot. She was one of the main people in the field that came up, so it made us feel a bit comfortable. And when we came to an open evening, and we'd spoke to her, so we was quite confident in the mechanism of the business and how you guys worked. Yeah, so we went through all this, both of us went through all the standard checks that you guys that you need to do, just to make sure everything was okay. The surrogate and her partner also had to have the checks as well to make sure that they, you know, they was right for us, and everything was signed off. I think there's some sort of standard policies that have to be adhered to also as well, so we had to go through those. I think it's been emotional, because it's, I think from this, obviously we got excited from day one when we'd kind of done the, well, when we'd first found the surrogate, that's probably the first bit was excited about. Then we'd obviously chose the clinic, so we came to the open day and we was happy, you know, it's almost a bit overwhelming. And then you start the process and you go through the tests, and I think that's the bit where you're waiting and it takes time, so you're getting a little bit anxious. But then I think we'd gone through the motions, and I think we'd we started to create the embryos, and I think one of the hardest bits for me was the time when they created the embryos, and then you've got to wait for the blast. So you get a phone call every day from day 1 to day 5, and you start off, for example, with 10 eggs, and you get the first phone call on day 1, and you've lost 2, so now you've got 8, and you know, it's everything could be okay. Well, let's see how they continue to grow. Then you get a phone call the next day on day 2, you lose 2 more. So each day, you know, we was losing them. So then you kind of think, you know, well, we're going to end up with none. What's going to happen? That's it. You know, we've gone through all of that and it's over. Like I say, we did do a first transfer and it failed. So I struggled with it quite a bit because I just, you know, it taken so long to get there, and you know, it was overwhelming. And then I just thought, it's just gone. Literally, what did we have to show other than we'd had a piece of paper with the photos of the embryos and what they was, but actually that was it. We did the transfer and it just disappeared, and it was like, well, where's it gone? So I think that was quite emotional and hard to deal with from my side. That's all we had as well. So again, that was a bit of a struggle, because you kind of think in your head you want to, you know, because it gives you the best possible chance. And we'd always said we wanted in the process to be able to have the best possible chance possible. But we only had one, so we put the one in and then it didn't work. Then we kind of, I won't say we had a break. We, you know, the surrogate was quite pushy, as in let's just continue, let's carry on. Because
obviously we felt bad. We didn't want to keep putting on someone else. You feel like you're putting on someone else to create your dream. We just wanted to make sure that obviously she was happy as well to continue and just have a bit of a breather, because obviously it was a bit disappointing.
So then we kind of jumped into it, and if I'm honest, we kind of said, let's just throw everything at it. So we doubled everything. You know, we'd had quite a few conversations with Darcy to see what our options was. And we said, let's just double everything up and you know, give it another good shot. And we did. We had a good amount of eggs, and we went through the process. So one thing that we did do, we did an additional test to tell us sort of the exact times of the transfer. So that was kind of the mock process that we had to do, which told the clinic exactly when they needed to do a transfer, as in a transfer window. They did that, and then we started the sort of phase 3 that went into it, and we'd the phone calls was probably the same as the first time round, where we was losing them sort of on day 1, 2, 3, but we had a good number of eggs. Then we got to transfer day and was able to transfer 2, and we had some additional eggs as well. So they did the transfer, but for some reason, I think this time, sort of the last time, it felt right. It felt different to the first time. I can't explain why, you know, why it felt different. Whether it's because we'd gone through the process the first time and we fully understood everything by the end of it, the second time just flowed so much sort of quicker and easier. And then it was a bit of a waiting game. Obviously, I think it was 12 days after transfer. And it was, you know, the surrogate was doing tests from transfer day onwards, but the day after transfer, she says, I feel so much different. She said, something feels different. So it was kind of like, oh, and I think as the days went up to the day we came back to the clinic for the first test, she was actually carrying out pregnancy tests as well, and a line did start appearing. So it was kind of like, you know, she's definitely having a baby. So again, the emotions come, you start getting excited. Then we came to the clinic and they confirmed that we'd actually transferred 2, but only 1 sort of made it through, which was okay. You know, the end result was we just wanted to have a baby, and we put 2 in to give us the best possible chance. I still think sometimes there could have been 2, you know, I think you can get caught up on that moment, but I think, again, you know, that's just, it's Mother Nature. That is the way it should be. And then I think moving on, some of the blood tests they was trying to, I think, match the blood test, and it wasn't as high. What was it called? The hormone levels. So the hormone levels wasn't,
HCG.
yeah, the HCG levels wasn't where they needed to be. So it kind of raised a little bit of concern because she was pregnant, but they wasn't doubling as they should. There was a little bit under. So we then got a little bit nervous, but they did, it continued to double and grow. And yeah, we ended up with a perfect baby. Same time, it's a lengthy process. Like I said, I think people think, and our understanding at the beginning was you get a surrogate and it just happens. And actually it don't just happen. You've still got to go through all the testing sort of phases, and that takes time. I think you have to, quarantine for certain periods of time. Something might not be right, so you sort of all have to be balanced to make it right. With the surrogate, she had to be balanced to make sure that things like her lining was the right thickness, the medication, so she was taking the medication correctly. Obviously the clinic take full control of her cycle, so it's, they've got to find that balance. I think one of the struggles was that it's not our line of work. So although we can research it and look at what needs to happen with the clinic, we probably sometimes got a little frustrated because we didn't know what was happening, but actually behind closed doors from the clinic side, everyone knew what was happening and what they needed to do because they have the full understanding. Whereas from our side, we knew what they needed to do, but we didn't 100%, on time scales or why have we got to wait. And everything was thoroughly sort of explained. But it's just one of the things, it's not what we do as a day-to-day job. So there's things that we don't know and get it, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think we'd met some good people. I think Dr Venkat was always very thorough. She was helpful. I think when we'd sort of after transfer, if we'd needed her, she was contactable. I think Nathan had spoke to her a couple of times after transfer. Darcy was pretty much, we'd spoke to Darcy quite a lot, so she was always kind of my point of contact from day one. I think the first day we came for the open day, it was made to feel very welcome. So that's obviously the reason we chose. And I think when we came back after we was going through, I think we'd done some tests and we'd spoke about how we're going to move forward. I think we was there one night till about 9 o'clock, and I think one of Darcy's comments was, shall we go and get something to eat? So we was made to be felt, really, really welcome. So the surrogate and her partner was there, both myself and Nathan was there. She, obviously we was all in the room. So baby was born by C-section. So we was all able to be present. So the surrogate's partner was in there from the beginning as support, because obviously she was having a C-section. And then as baby was due to come out, we was able to go in the room at the same time. So we was all present. After she gave birth, obviously we left the room with baby, and the surrogate and her partner stayed in the room, obviously, and went into recovery. Once everyone had settled, she'd come out of recovery, baby had had all of his checks. We then spoke to the surrogate and the partner just to see if they wanted to meet baby properly, because again, it could be a difficult situation. It's sensitive. There's I think you have the issues of attachment as well, that, they might feel attached and you don't want that. But she was happy to meet him, so she was overjoyed. And obviously we did want her to meet him because she'd been with him for 9 months. She'd carried him for all that time. At that point, she knew him better than we knew him. So I think it was nice to see. But at the same time, I think you could see that both the surrogate and partner was conscious, because they didn't want to feel that they didn't want to put us out. So whilst they'd gone through all of that together, they were still putting us first. We've been together for 16 years, 16 years this month. We're not married as of yet. It's something that will happen in the future, probably within the next 2 years. Nathan's quite keen on doing it now, but I think now, I knew baby was going to come at some point. I want the baby to be involved. So Euan needs to be able to probably be walking and talking, and he can be a part of that day.
Yeah, I think that would be nice.